Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Bearded Federalist Show. We kind of took a hiatus there for a few weeks. I went on vacation, and this new job is a little stressful, and everyone else is, kind of just taking a break. I think all three of us can say that we are ready for this election to be over with.
Yes.
It has honestly felt like the longest election ever. Like the cycle is just ridiculous. Certain things happen, and I'm like, oh, that feels like forever ago, and it was like a month. Um, but yeah, so today we are actually going to start out with a few questions from some of you guys. Only three of you guys asked questions, but I'm not going to hold that against anyone. But they are pretty decent questions, and I think it will benefit everybody to know our answers to these. And so we are going to start off from Heidi Whitaker. What would you, um, it said, would you be interested in a show about news sources that you trust? Which do you believe to be reliable? And I
Oh.
think this would be a really good question for both of you guys because a lot of us these days, we don't watch mainstream news. At least I don't. And so a lot of us are pulling our, stories and our information from other news. So what do you guys think?
So I think we've actually talked about this before. I listen to a lot of podcasts, um, and I know that there's a lot of people in the news media that have specific specialties. So, for example, Dan Bongino, for example, I am not really a big fan of his. But when Donald Trump when he was the first attempted assassination, um, I felt like if there was somebody to trust to know what's going on within the Secret Service, that would be a good source. So I did watch him for a few days after the first assassination. He just kept talking about the same stuff, so I didn't. And I actually do watch a little bit of mainstream news. So I pretty much stick to Fox unless I've got a wild hair and I want a good laugh, and then I'll turn on like MSNBC or CNN just to see what their craziness is talking about. I think it's hilarious. Um, but I like to stick to uh, the Christian mindset. So Steve Dace, at least on current events, I like Steve Dace. Um, Aaron McIntyre's AM show that seems to be and he'll tell you that it's he does opinion stuff. So I wouldn't say necessarily count any source out. Just know who the source is, and uh, don't know who the source is and what their specialty is, and know where they're coming from. So then you can weed out their biased opinion. That would be if you are specifically looking for good news. That also Twitter is pretty good right now.
Yeah.
It's not bad actually. So for me, I am skeptical to the max on so much news. So just to answer the question right off the bat, and then I'll kind of address it. Um, I like to get my news local, um, and so I listen to a lot of Dale Jackson. He's on our local radio here. I listen to Phil Williams, another guy that's locally here, and another dude by the name of Yaffe. Um, those three really bring a lot of the local and state news, and then they touch on the important things federally. So I get the news updates and commentary from them. Yeah, I really like Phil Williams for a lot of reasons. The dude is a former senator. He's a former Army officer. He is a former pastor. So the dude has a strong background and knowledge on a lot of the same interests that I have. So if you need a guy that can talk about the how the hidden backdoor room meetings go between representatives and how bills are negotiated and how conversations are had and how leverage is made and like the strategy of politics that happens at the government levels. He's a wealth of information on that, and so I love that. Um, as far as just getting headlines and like updates on news, I've been testing out. There's this thing I've been getting a lot of ads for. It's called Ground News, and I don't know if anyone's looked at it, but what they do is they collect the headlines from, for example, you say I'm a conservative, so I want my headlines from conservative news sources. But for each headline you get from a conservative news source, they give a counter bias source. So you can get on the same article, on the same report, side by side on your screen at the same time, you can compare and contrast all of that. And so it gives you a good balance of, hey, this is what my side's saying, this is what they're saying, what actually happened may or may not be there at all. Um, it is good for research because you might find a topic where only one side is talking about something and the other is not at all. And so it produces more information that way. Um, because one of my biggest issues with media is omission. I think that's the biggest way that their biases happen is instead of highlighting things, which they do a lot, the real evil is in what they omit and what they leave out. The news that they choose not to talk about, the news that they choose not to portray and bring to the front to the viewer, and that's how it's controlled. Um, and so, yeah, Ground. I'm still checking it out. I like that it just gives you both sides. It gives you scores too. Like this source is extremely left wing, and this source is extremely right wing, and this one is in the middle. And they do it based on not just um, like overall they're extremely this way or extremely that way, but on the topic of guns, there'll be this one has a lot to go this way, this one has a lot to go that way. On the topic of abortion, and so they break it down categories too. So it's a good tool to research your media sources and compare and contrast. I love, uh, like Frost just said, podcasters. Horowitz is a big one for me.
Yep.
Shannon Joy, I really like her. Tracy Beans for health stuff, um, and just if you need a shot of feel good, uh, Tracy's going to be the place to go. She will get you motivated, get you pumped up, and get your head screwed on right. And she'll be able to do that even addressing current events, which is mind blowing. That's a incredible skill. Um, None of these people do I agree on everything with, and I think they would appreciate that. So, um, yep, that's probably where most of my sources come from. Some of these podcasters, the ground thing, and then local radio. Man, because I get to hear like the local guys, they bring on the representatives and stuff and on the show and question them, and you get to hear and talk to them. You get to call in and talk to your representatives live on air, and get to question. So I love local interaction because of that. If you have a good conservative radio guy locally that is accessible, man, that's a wealth of information resource there. So yeah, that's where I go to.
Yeah, I would have to say local is good as well. And there are a few journalists that I follow on X. Um, Colin Rugg, he's a good one. I usually find most of his stuff very credible. Same goes for Ryan. I forgot his last name, but he works at the Daily Wire. He's another one whom I trust uh, source wise. And then, yeah, there's just
Shout out to
so,
Dustin Grage too.
yeah.
Yeah,
If
Our boy.
Dustin.
anything Tim Walls related, I am asking Dustin about it because
So
he'll
like
do his research.
exactly what I said. So know your source, know the person that's doing the reporting, and know what their specialty is, and then when you need information about that, you go to that person. So
Yep.
Justin Gage is
Yeah.
another perfect example. He is all Tim Waltz. He knows everything. He's got it.
Yep. Yeah, and I would say that's honestly I know he can do more, but his specialty right now, and everything that he's getting recognition for is because of his work, just
Yeah.
exposing Tim Walz. Um, Mark, this next question is for you. This is from one of our followers, Jack Legg. He wants you to break down the Alabama ballot.
Jack, thank you,
Oh,
sir.
Yeah.
Caught me on a hot point. So it's going to be hard, and here's why. Um, Breaking down a local ballot really comes down to municipalities, that level, because you are getting city council, you are getting, um, school boards and stuff like that. So there's no way I can break down all of Alabama
like
to that degree.
my ballot is going to actually be different than your ballot because we're District 2 down here, I think, and you
District
guys are.
two is so District two is actually where I've put a lot of work and attention in since this whole season's been going off. For those that don't know, Alabama was recently redistricted,
Yeah.
and that district was designed to try to capture a Democrat seat. That's the entire purpose of
Yep.
that redesign for that seat, and they're not hiding it. That they have said specifically that is what the goal is. But the race there is neck and neck. It's actually pretty close, and so if we can take that seat, if we can take District Two, that puts Republicans a really good step forward to taking the House overall, which didn't really look like it was all that much in play even a month ago. But things like District Two bring it into play,
Mm-hmm.
and so that is a huge thing. And again, this is why I always press on prioritizing the down ballot is those seats. Oh, man, they're so important. They're so important.
Oh
And
wait,
so
hold on
District
a
Two,
second. District 2, they just so I don't live in District 2 anymore. They actually split us. So I live in, is it 1? Do I live in 1 now? I can't
I don't
remember.
know,
I
bro.
can like see the map where they changed everything in my head, but I don't remember the numbers. Like I remember it looked like check marks at the bottom sort of thing.
hmm,
I'll have to
just like
look.
I'm trying to look up real quick.
They probably saw you were a Republican and put you in District 1.
Everybody, like I live in a very large neighborhood, and everybody is. I mean, everyone is a Republican. It's like 97% Republican, 3% gold. There's no blue at all in
Yeah,
my area.
it's hit
Now
or miss up here.
the other side of the bay, yes, that's all blue.
Yeah, and that's where the fight is. So we've got the Democrat candidate is Shamari Figures, and he is running against Caroline Dobson.
Yeah,
Um, Now,
Dobson.
Figures is a black man with a really actually solid, impressive resume, and so he's got a lot of credibility down there. And Caroline Dobson, powerful resume as well. Um, and both of them are from that area. Both of them are well known in the area. Both of them are well liked in that area.
Yeah,
Um, and so it's a bloodbath. They're actually being relatively respectful in their politicking. They had a debate here recently.
yep, they
Um,
did. I think
but
they. And honestly, I
Dobson,
think they both did very well.
yep. So if any of our listeners are anywhere near District 2 and you want to make a big difference, help out the Dobson campaign. That fight is important. Um, so that's there. Um, let's see. Other campaigns that are important within the state. That's going to be really the big one. Most of the others are going to go the way we expect them to go. It's going to go red throughout most of the state, except for parts of Shelby County. That
Yep,
will have some blue locked in there. Um, but for the overall, I mean, we're a solid red state.
there'll be
That
the Mobile city area, Birmingham city area, Tuscaloosa, and Auburn. Those are like the strongholds, the blue strongholds. If
Yeah.
something were to happen, though, in Alabama, where something were to go like crazy
So
blue and unexpectedly, it would be because of those areas.
Right. So the challenge with um, elections like this in solid red states is the real election is the primaries. That's the real one.
Yeah.
This is just ceremonial at this point. And so the primaries, unfortunately, is when people just don't show up to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a low turnout all the time. Again, that's why I beat the drum to prioritize the down ballot, because in solid red or solid blue states, that's the real election right there. Um, because now we're talking about moving the needle by degrees. Okay, we're solid red, but that's a, as Trump has shown, that doesn't really mean a lot, and it's a weird tent. Just because you have R in front of your name does not mean that you are conservative
Now,
whatsoever, especially in
I,
Alabama.
I agree, but at the end of the day, in Alabama, you've got a lot of people that even if they don't participate in the primary, if they see an R next to their name, they're going to vote for that person over the person who has a
Yep.
D in front of their name.
And the Democrats know that. Like, who's that? I can't. The guy's he's slipping my mind right now. He's infamous for this in our state, but he's gone Republican to Democrat to Independent to Democrat to Republican to Democrat to Republican. Like, he has run like 10 times. I want to say Siebert, but it's not Siebert. I don't think it is. Um,
Well, to
but
be honest with you, we do have a lot of politicians in Alabama that um,
is it
they
Parker
started
Griffin?
out Democrat. Even Kay Ivey, I think we've talked about this. Kay Ivey is actually a Democrat, and she saw that her
Yep.
political career was going to be over unless she switched to Republican. And she still does some
Yep.
Democrat things. I'm not saying that she doesn't, because she does. Um,
Yep.
but she does what the people want, and not really what she believes, because she's a Democrat. So there's a
Yep.
lot of that in Alabama.
Yep. And yeah, she's weak.
Well,
That's
no,
the best way.
I was telling someone this the other day. Kay Ivey is one of those where she's not a terrible governor, but she's really just absent, and anything that
Yeah.
she does, it's essentially something another Republican governor or governors have done, and she just signs it to
She's not a leader.
join. She's a follower for sure.
Yep.
Um,
And unfortunately, our state has a lot of those in parts. Like
Yeah.
my representative, I think he's pretty much a follower, not a leader. Um, uh, we've got a lot of those, and that's common where you have really strong red or blue states. The need to actually step up and do anything other than have an R in front of your name uh, is very minimal, and so that's why we need to be active in things like the primaries and
Yep.
in our executive committees. So we vet these guys, bring them out. But uh, yep, on some big things that are coming up within Alabama politics that help, I think, address this question. Um, Again, thanks, Jack. Man, that's a good question. Like, my brain is reeling on that one. Um, is we have some bills that we've been fighting for and just getting our toes in the door and need to expand on, like school choice. Okay, we got a bill through on school choice, but we need to work on that more. We need to grow it more. And so the candidates that are pushing that and working on that, have their hands in that, like Susan DeBoer and others like that, they need our support. And so at this point, you are looking at issues and finding candidates that best represent those issues. Um, and so, yeah, Alabama, I'd say right now the big fight is District 2. If any of our listeners from inside or outside of the state uh, want to help contribute to uh, Dobson's campaign, that would be a huge help. Not just for that district, but for the country as a whole, because that's another seat in Congress for Republicans.
yeah, and I would definitely agree with that. Our last question is from Ed at just Ed is fine. He wants to know, he said, I have two questions about conservative scorecard rating websites like Heritage
Mm.
Action and CPAC.
Mm.
Which one do you prefer or find more reliable? Are there any other sites you might recommend?
Hmm.
This one's tricky because I do every now and then I look at someone's like Liberty score or their Heritage
Yeah.
score, but you have to be tricky with those because sometimes they're not up to date.
Yeah.
And so, someone's record might show, 80 or 90%, but that was 3 years ago
Yeah.
and
Like
they
under the
voted,
Trump administration. Yeah.
yeah, and they've voted, poorly since then. And so I
Yeah, and
think it,
what those scorecards prioritize are different too. Like
mhm.
they're not even on the same ballpark in what they
Yeah.
prioritize. Um, so what I like to do um, when dealing with the scorecards is I will look at the score. I'm looking for people with 85s and higher um, on both. If they have 85s and higher on both, that's someone I'm going to be interested in. Those that are 80 to 85, I'm going to be looking at the. I don't care about the positive scores on there because it's going to be generally across the same. I want to see what the negative hits are on them. And then what I often do is I'll go over to votesmart.com. And on VoteSmart, you can find every politician's whole entire record, all of their voting record. And you can search it by keyword. And so if I want to find out what they've not just voted, like not just how they voted, but have they done news interviews? If so, it's got their transcripts. It's pretty cool. Like it's got all of their speeches, it's got their interview transcripts, it's got everything. And so I can really dive into who this person is on that particular topic. Um, and so that's kind of the just by how I go through it. So I'm looking for 85s and higher on both. If they're lower than that, I delve into the topics and issues. Um, some of those things can give negative scores, and what they give a negative score, I think, is a positive. Um, and so, yeah, I take it all with a grain of salt with that. The second part of the question is there one that I like to use? And no, there just isn't. They're just kind of um, an additional flavor to add to the soup as far as just getting an overall picture
Exactly.
of this
Like
person.
I'll give you an example. Right now, if you go to Heritage Action for America and you search for Thomas Massey, his session score is a 70%, and then his lifetime score is an 83%. But then if you go over to Liberty score, it shows his score as a 96. Now, Massey
Right?
does vote no on a lot of things that
Every spending bill.
Republican,
Yeah.
every spending bill or anything that has bad spending tied into it, or for instance, when it comes to censoring certain people within Congress for things that they've said, he will vote no just based on the language and how it, could be
Mm-hmm.
interpreted in the future. And so it's one thing I like about Massey is when he votes on something or he votes no on something that is not popular within his party, he will give you a long drawn out explanation as to why he did that, or he'll say, "Hey, yeah, this bill did this, but it had this in it as well, and we should not support that or
Yep.
give leeway on that." And so
What I
it's
like about
definitely,
Massey is he challenges me to look introspectively on what I prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
Like he really challenges, like he will vote no on a spending bill that I think needs to pass. Um, national defense bill,
But
uh,
his base premise though is no more spending.
yeah, yep. He's like, we can't afford that, and I have to ask the question of, um, yeah, we can't afford that. That's going to hurt us, but at the same time, can we afford not to?
No.
And
Well.
so I have to wrestle with that. What I love about him is he's going to be steadfast and solid on that. He's going to be that voice that says we need to stop it on every single thing. And so that's we need that voice. Um, would I want a whole Congress full of that?
Nope.
No, probably not. I think we need like 10 or 15 more of him.
oh yeah.
but but yeah. So I love the how he makes me he challenges me to look introspectively and to dig deeper into these bills and to figure out, okay, I agree we can't spend more, but at the same time, can we afford not to?
Yeah.
And so it's cool. I love him for that.
So
And I
while
don't
we're
always agree with, and that's why those scores are different on those two things. Is what they prioritize. One might say, hey, it's a conservative position to be pro-military, right, and to fund the military, where the other one is like it's a conservative position to not spend. And so now you're getting two different scores. He's getting penalized in one,
yep.
where he's getting praised in the other, and that's why those are just, like I said, more flavor to the soup.
So since we're on the topic of spending, and it's been a while since we've done a show, what do you guys? I'm curious about what your thoughts are when we gave 400 million to Ukraine, and then we gave $750 to the people that got hit by, what was it, Hurricane Helen,
Helene.
Helene, and then we can move into the whole Israel conflict because there's a lot of news to hit there.
Well, I would start off by it. There's going to be terrible spending on either side, depending on
Yeah.
who wins this election. It's just, can we try and predict who's going to be worse? And honestly, I don't know because, Trump came out the other day and said he was open to getting rid of the income tax. And, for me, someone who gets very upset about how much he doesn't get to bring home because of income tax, I'm like, hell yeah, brother. I go all like MAGA just on that, but then I have to sit back and think, well, is this, good for the country? Because on one hand, Trump wants to get rid of the income tax and then replace everything with tariffs, which is essentially going to affect us. But he also wants companies to move back to America and for us to start buying American.
So
Now, if you do that, like, so that, people buy American products, how are we going to pull off enough money from tariffs? Because, you know, Argentina may be able to do something like this on their level because, they're not 35 trillion in debt. They're maybe 400 billion in debt, and they're also a lot smaller. But tariffs only account for like 13% of the revenue that we bring in. 49% comes from income tax.
yeah.
And just alone, I want to say our federal defense budget is around 13 to 15% of the entire revenue. Like we're talking 800 billion a
Yeah.
year
Yep.
just on defense. And so I'm sitting here thinking, well, how is this going to work if he were to implement that? I don't think that he would. That would be one of his broken campaign promises that we saw from his first term. I don't think it would ever go into fruition. It's just something he's saying, to get those
Yeah,
idiots.
I mean, here's the question: can he do that?
Yeah,
So
I don't think
I
he
don't think
can.
he can. I don't think he can. Now I
Well,
think
well,
I we know from his first term that he can raise tariffs.
he can
The
raise
question
tariffs,
is,
but he can't eliminate the tax.
can he now? Is it possible for him to raise the tariffs enough to where he can lower the tax brackets like significantly? Let's say 10 to 15% across the board, or a scale from 10 to 15%, or even if it's not 30 freaking 6%, like we are paying. I paid last year in taxes more than I was making in a whole year working full-time retail in taxes.
Hmm.
I
Oh yeah,
bought I bought a
Congratulations,
Humvee
by the
in
way.
taxes last year. Like
absolutely. I mean,
it,
right
it,
now I'm making well over six figures, but the amount that I see coming out on taxes is as much as I was making a year while I was working even like at Chick-fil-A years ago.
yeah,
Like it
yeah,
is ridiculous.
yeah. And if that
Yeah.
doesn't turn you Republican, I don't know what will.
So The issue with him making such promises is one, we have a constitutional amendment that puts in the income tax. The 16th Amendment has established that. So, in order for him to get rid of income tax, which is part B of his, well, part A of his whole plan there, he has to get rid of the 16th Amendment. The president does not have that power, obviously. So, again, we're back to the down ballot fixing stuff. Um, so that's part one. He can't get rid of income tax. Two, all fiduciary issues are the purview of Congress. Every single one of them, all of them. So as far as even tariffs, he has to get the authorization from Congress via a bill um, to tax, and that includes setting up tariffs. Um, and so again, it's all about that down ballot, what Congress is going to do. We will not have enough of a majority in either house to do any of that this time around. What 2026 brings us, don't know. That's kind of where I'm trying to put our fight towards, so we can put a majority in there that can make actual changes to things like that. But um, the question of can he do any of that is a resounding no.
Not by
He
himself
won't
anyway.
have enough. No, he won't have enough in the House. Either way, like even if he had full support of all of the Republicans in the House, which he won't, but if he did, that's not gonna happen. The third thing is it a good idea or not? He needs to, apply Chesterton's. Wow, can't even say that. Chesterton's fence analogy, which is you come up across a fence and it's in your way, blocking this road. The reactionary goes, "It's blocking my way. I need to move it so we can go on." The conservative looks at it and goes, "Why is this here?" And we need to look at why it's there. So I would like Trump to actually take a look at the history of why we left tariffs and went to the income tax. Um, Now, I think there's a good way to leave income tax. I think the 16th Amendment does need to be repealed. I think we do need to go back to a consumer based taxation system. Um, and so either a fair tax or a flat tax of some sort makes sense. Tariffs alone would be a very bad idea because now you're dealing with the supply um, and logistics issues too. And so that gets real shady. But um, the history of tariffs and consumer taxation has proven to be successful. Has proven to work. It can be catered and adjusted how we need it. But uh, is it a good idea? Not tariffs alone, which is his plan. Tariffs alone will not do it. Like Frost just pointed out, it just it won't without doing serious destruction to us. Um, but a tariff and consumption based tax policy, that would be great. Got to get rid of the 16th Amendment. Got to get a majority that's enough of a majority of conservatives in Congress in order to even begin to even have that conversation. So him making these kind of promises drives me insane.
Well, yeah, it drives me insane when he makes these type of promises, and then you have the left saying, "Oh, he's going to put a national abortion ban in place if elected." And first off, I just sit back and I laugh because I'm like, if you knew Donald Trump, you knew he would never do that. The conservatives want him to do that, but he would never do that. Trump is pro-choice, and I literally argued with someone on Facebook the other day who said, "Well, he says that now," but and I'm like, "Well, he didn't do that during his first term. He overturned Roe v. Wade, got it turned back over to the states, and he's literally taking credit for like both sides of the argument in a way."
I
And
I actually give Biden credit for the Roe v. Wade because he was in office when it actually got overturned. That really
well,
makes
that
Democrats mad when I tell them that.
that too, but I mean, Trump. gave us the justices that would have overturned that. But you know, the president can't do anything to, um, you know, an abortion ban. I mean, the state will oversee that, and legally, that's federalism, folks.
Yep. So he needs Congress to be able to do that, which isn't there. And then you have the whole issue of the states and nullification. They don't
Yeah.
have to cooperate.
Yeah. Hmm. But I think that will tie into the Israel news, which I am not really caught up on. The only thing I know of is they attacked, was it Tehran? It was somewhere in Iran.
The
Tehran.
Republican Guard.
Iran, yeah.
Tehran, the capital of Iran. So, to give the whole backstory. Okay, so you guys know that Gaza Hamas attacked them August 7th of last year, and
Hmm.
then Hezbollah. You have Hamas, Hezbollah, the the Houthi rebels there, and then you also have Iran. They're all the same thing. It's just they're they're all the same. They're all the same. It's all the same group of
They're all
people.
going
They're
to
just
hell.
yeah. They're all going hell. So now that they've destroyed Hamas, they've taken out their leader. They changed to their focus to Hezbollah, which they have totally wiped. Actually, they unalived the leader of Hezbollah, and then 2 days later they elected a new leader, and he was dead within 24 hours. Like, he did not last very
Yep.
long. Okay, so
Whack-a-mole.
Israel took out. Do you guys remember the news cycle where Israel took out a Hamas leader or a Hezbollah leader in Iran with some type of weapon in
Was this in that hotel room?
yeah, the hotel room? You guys remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
So October 1st, Iran was saying that they were going to retaliate on Israel for doing that. And they did that on October 1st, or maybe it was the second here, or the I don't know. It was like October 1st is when it happened. Let's just say. So Israel was like, okay, well, we will retaliate. We are going to retaliate. Um, but they had Israel is very. I'm going to say religious when it comes to like their sacred Jewish roots. Like they don't do things on the Sabbath, for example. They don't fight on the Sabbath. They they just, and then if there's like Easter for us or whatever, I don't know I'm not Jewish, so I don't know all of their holidays, but they do not do things when it's a religious holiday. Well, they had Yom Kippur or whatever it was that was like 2 weeks long or something, and so they didn't do anything for like 2 weeks because of the religious holiday. So this attack that they just did was in retaliation for the October attack, which was a retaliation for killing that Hamas leader in that hotel room. Which was a retaliatory thing for for the October 7th thing, right? So, it does look. I think I posted on Twitter last night, or day before yesterday, about like what was actually hit in the attacks. So there's a lot of strategy, and Mark probably knows a lot about this too. There's a lot of strategy when you're playing chess on the battlefield. Some types of units are going to be better than other types of units, and there's actually like a conundrum thing where snipers are going to be able to they're better against like armored units. The soldiers are better against flanking things and whatever. Like the in old school battle where they met on a field, you had the soldiers up front with the sword and board, right? They fought with swords. Then you had the archers in the back, and then you had cavalry that flanked. So it's the same sort of thing, right? It doesn't quite work that way in today's battle because we have like the whole guerrilla warfare or whatever, but it's still a good way of start your thought. So when I was looking through what they hit and the things that they said in the past, they promised Iran that they were going to hit a nuclear site, which, as far as I can tell, they have not. They may have damaged one, but they have not specifically targeted and destroyed nuclear site. And so I think they did destroy a couple of oil sites, or at least damage them to where they'll have to repair them. They're going to be down for a few weeks or whatever. But so I think they took out the things like your air defense. They specifically targeted air defense. They targeted physical defense, and they targeted actual military installations. So, in my mind, the way that I think about, if I was going to attack or whatever, basically what they did was they put the person on the table and they just opened him up. They haven't started the surgery yet. They've just put the body on the table and they opened him up. Should they attack again, which they have promised that they are going to, then they'll start stabbing organs. So I don't think we're really going to see any major nastiness in the next few days. But as soon as Iran attacks back, I just hope that the nuclear stuff is still off the table. But I think Israel's about to get it done, if you know what I mean.
I hope so.
So one of the things that, so was any kinetic action, with any use of force, there's a whole layer of messaging going on there.
Yes.
And so what Israel just did is they flew 140 airplanes into Iran's capital to make the message and make the point that we can do this and
Yep.
you can't stop us.
Yep.
And so they demonstrated their air superiority and dominance there. Now, Iran, they're going to have to try to do likewise, to say, we can hit you and you can't stop us. And if they fail in that, then and they're going to have to be able to do it in a way that's similar. What I mean by that is, one of the things that makes Iran dangerous and powerful is their terrorist network, right?
Yep.
And so they've got terrorists planted all over the world that can do sabotage and stuff like that. But those are localized, low-level events that don't change the strategic battlefield landscape very much. Being able to assert air dominance is a massive thing. Like that, Israel just said, we can control your airspace.
Yep.
It means we can hit anything and everything.
Yep.
So that, for Iran to make a counter thing, their terrorist network is not going to be sufficient. They're going to have to somehow establish their either a ground dominance or an air dominance or something to prove their strength. If they can't do that, then two things. One is the message is clear. Mess around with it, Israel, and you're going to find out. Or the other option is what Frost is kind of hinting to. In any event, any action that you are encountering somebody else in conflict whatsoever, even in debate, I do this in debate as well, is you leave your opponent a way out, in a way to save face. You leave them with, if they don't choose to take that, then that's on them. But and the reason you do that is if you don't leave your opponent a way out, what they have to do to assert themselves is excessive. And so, like Frost just mentioned, he's worried about nuclear involvement. If Israel has such an air dominance, and then they can do whatever they want on the ground as well, then Iran might feel like they have no way out, no way to save face.
Dog backed away escape in the corner.
And so they have to escalate to the nth degree, which we don't know what that looks like right now.
Yep.
And so that creates its own problems there. So yeah, it's quite a conflict, because then again, if where is the response from Iran into Israel? Where's the line in which they do that that brings us in?
Yeah.
Well, the funny
And
thing is
that's
that all the retaliatory attacks so far from Iran and Hezbollah, and other than Hamas coming in on October 7th, like they haven't really done any damage. I think they killed one little girl on the first big major attack, and then they actually killed a Palestinian because they don't actually exist. So I don't know what country he lives in because there's no such thing as a
right.
Palestinian. With they killed a Palestinian with
No,
debris
the
from the Iron Dome and just squashed him. Now Hezbollah has done some damage to some of the local areas right there on the north end of Israel where Lebanon is, but other than that, no damage.
Yep.
So what are
you know,
they gonna do?
Yeah. The
speaking
concern
of
is, where's the line that gets us drawn in?
Oof.
exactly,
Fortunately,
and
I'm liking hearing what, and hopefully we get more of these voices. So the extreme conservative branch of the Republican Party is in disagreement with the more progressive branch within it, is the populist. That's the word I'm looking for. So they're at odds a little bit on how to deal with Israel. On one side, wants to go in and support Israel and dump a bunch of funds and even get us involved. Um, those, like your Lindsey Graham and those types are all for that. Then you have guys like Ron DeSantis, who's like, Israel is capable of handling this. Let's let them handle it. And so that's more where I lined with, is there. But um, the media is going to play a big role in how this portrays for us,
Yep.
how they paint this to the average voter and the citizens.
Yep.
And so I'm concerned about, what are they going to, how is this going to be portrayed and leveraged in a way that could potentially get American lives involved, and I hope that does not happen.
I think it's all going to depend on, again, who's president. Now, I actually believe that neither side wants the U.S. to have troops on the ground anywhere.
True. I believe
Um,
that's true as well.
Hmm.
as evil as I think that the Democrats are, I know they don't want that either. That's why they shell out so much money. I get the argument for giving, Ukraine, Israel, all these countries money, but at the same time, what are we getting in return?
Nothing.
And
Hmm.
we already have 35 trillion in debt. We don't need to be doing this. Now,
Hmm.
if Israel were to come tomorrow, I mean, granted, they're our biggest ally. Ukraine, not so much. But if they were to come tomorrow and say, "Hey, we really need help," I think it would be different versus us just giving them a blank checkbook. But I think it's really going to matter, if anything, the number one issue why I think who is going to be president matters. Who's going to give off the most strength? And honestly, Donald Trump gives off the most strength when it comes to foreign policy. I mean, there's no denying that. You know,
Hmm.
his demeanor, his history just gives him the upper leg. And Kamala, she can barely, form a sentence without falling out of a coconut tree. And so uh, that's the one area. I think overall, if Kamala wins on a national level, we will be okay. Because, I mean, we live in a red state. We've got red cities. We all believe in the Second Amendment. We'll be fine. But it's the world level that I worry about.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. Yeah, I've often said the president is the office of the president is a supercharged diplomat, and that matters. That matters big time.
yeah.
Um, As
And I
far
mean,
as
Trump literally came out
who's
the other day and said he was going to fix the ice cream machines. So I think he's got the election in the bag now. If
the
he can
things that
fix those
matter.
ice cream
These are the things that
Oh man,
matter.
did you guys
My
see?
kids are really upset that the ice cream machines don't always work.
So the whole McDonald's thing. Since we're let's change this topic to Trump and that McDonald's crap. So everybody online was like, "Oh, it was staged." No, no, no
Duh.
way! It wasn't staged. He just walked into a McDonald's and got a job. No way! You're kidding me, right? Of course it was staged, you baboons. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
it's
people are so
funny.
stupid.
It's
Like,
funny just because Kamala claimed to work there for a while, and McDonald's like, no, she never did. She never run this.
Well,
like
So he goes
they
in and
posted a
does it for
picture.
one day and one
They
ups her,
they
and it's just hilarious.
they posted a picture of Kamala, and then someone posted the real picture and said, "You sure about that?" And then other people were like, "I think it's funny how the woman that they photoshopped her face onto was white." You know,
Right, right.
but it's just interesting. It's the most
so
interesting election cycle that
the
I've
next the
Yeah,
ever
next
witnessed.
little wrench with that McDonald's thing, and then literally the very next day, McDonald's gets hit with some E. coli crap. The next day.
yep, yep.
Yeah, well, and so I had questions about that because at first they were speculating that it came from the beef, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, in my head I'm like, if
How?
they've traced it to, well, I mean, E. coli can be in beef. It's been a long time, but my question was, if it's in the beef, why is it only the quarter pounders that are being affected? Like, do they not use the same patties for like Big Macs and double cheeseburgers and everything else? And so then it came out that it was actually the onions and it was the sliced onions. And I guess all their other burgers get the diced onions. And so
So
that's where it came from.
so check this. I just looked at the date because I'm keeping up with things. Um, this is our last show before the election.
It
Like
is.
the election's going to happen next time we come up here. We're going to have a new president elected,
I don't know
and
about that. Maricopa County said it could take almost 2 weeks to get the election results. I don't know if you
No.
guys heard
yeah,
that report. They
yep.
said
It,
10 to 13 days.
it,
Isn't
it
that crazy?
somebody will put two and two together and no.
I'm hoping by that point it literally doesn't come down to them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
yep,
hoping someone's already won by that point.
yep. Um, so the cool thing is Tuesday I will be working at the voting precinct and working there and going through that whole process to make sure these votes locally are counted, that they're legit, and get to be a part of that. So our next show, I'll be able to talk a little bit about that, how that went, and encourage other people to get involved as well next time around. Um, so my question for you guys is: we got an election here. Um, who's going to win?
Trump.
Let's do the presidency. Let's do Congress, and then let's do your representatives. Um, and so who's going to
I
win?
I honestly think Trump will win president, and it's interesting because it could go either way. But right now, look at the betting markets.
Yeah.
Trump is like blowing
Yep.
Kamala out of the water when it comes to that. Now, it could just be that they're trying to like short that, and at the last second they come in and bet on Kamala to win. But I think she may win the popular vote, and then Trump win the electoral college, and him win the House. It'll probably go to the Democrats, and then Senate. I think we may end up with the Senate. Which,
Yep.
if we end up with the Senate alone, I'm happy.
Do we
Um,
take seats in the House or do we lose seats in the House?
I think
I think
we.
we're going to lose seats.
Yeah, I think we're gonna lose seats in the House. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think there are a couple. Ironically, I've actually kind of dove a little bit into this. So I'm certain that we're going to get the Senate. I'm like Zach. I'm certain we're going to get the Senate. I'm certain that Trump is going to win the White House again. Also, I think Caroline Dobson is going to win my district for the local race. That's really the only one that I really care about. And honestly, I don't really care about any of the city stuff that's happening. Nothing is. It's not like a big deal for me. Nothing's going to change. I know. It's like it's just not. It's just not. It's not going to bother me either way. It's like the kids' lunches. I will personally pay extra property tax so kids can eat. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm also okay if it doesn't change. I don't have any kids.
Yep.
I'll probably have to pay for their lunch anyway, or they'll probably pack their own lunch. So that's the kind of things, like all the other stuff from my local district I don't really care about, because I'm willing to do either way. It doesn't matter to me. As for the House, so it is possible that we win the House, but it'll basically be exactly how it is right now. It'll be very close. If we do win the House, I think the Senate will actually be a blowout. And then obviously Trump will win. Now, if Kamala wins, we will definitely have lost the House. Because those, Mark, your big thing is, hey, the down ballot races. Well, if those people show up for the down ballot, they'll also show up for Kamala. Or if Kamala is a really big one, they'll also show up for the down ballot.
What about all the voters that are voting for Kamala but are voting Republican down ballot?
I don't think that they're really going to matter, to be honest.
I think that there's a lot of Haley voters that could affect that. Now, then again, there's a lot of independents that go into this as well. What'll be interesting is if miraculously we got all three. I think it's very low, but there would literally be no excuses for us not to get anything done, because you know, Chevron's overturned, so executive orders only go so far. So there would actually have to be legislation passed to get the ball rolling. And if Trump had the House and the Senate and got nothing done, his legacy would be ruined.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and that would definitely be the end of any of this MAGA movement stuff. That would definitely kill it for sure. Did you guys see Donald Trump decided he wasn't going to, if he loses this time, he's done. He's retired.
Well, I think that's, I saw that, but while I think Republicans are stupid, I don't think they'd be stupid enough to try and elect him one more time. I think I don't know. They would maybe try.
The reason he'll be done, though, is he'll probably be in prison.
Yes, that's probably true.
He needs the win to stay out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And after the next 4 years, he can probably just be like, I'm a senile old man. You can't put me in jail.
Yeah, I mean, what could happen is if he's president, because he runs the executive branch and the DOJ is part of the executive branch, he can do a lot to put an end to a lot of those cases.
Yeah, for now anyway.
The state ones he can't do anything about.
Yeah.
But if he wins the Senate and the federal judges start shelling out judges like they did last time, some 500 something judges that they appointed during his last term. So they had the Senate the whole time. I don't know, maybe there can be some pressure put. It's like they do an investigation on Trump, and then because they see some fallacies in their arguments or whatever, they go after the state guys on federal charges.
So that brings up a question: do you guys see any states flipping?
Oh,
not for the presidency, for the governors.
Ooh.
Or even their
to be honest,
legislative
I haven't kept up with that and to see which ones are up for re-election.
So New York, interestingly, has something fascinating going on. It looks like New York might have a majority GOP uh, uh,
Senate?
representative house. Their Senate won't be, but their representatives. Looks like
Really?
yeah.
Huh.
Really? Who was it?
Yep.
We talked about not Youngkin. He's in Virginia, right? Was it North
Yeah.
Carolina? Was a Democrat?
North Carolina. Yeah, North
North
Carolina
Carolina.
is.
It looks like they're going to have a Democrat governor and Republican legislature.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Because
that
Mark
one's.
Robinson is terrible.
I think
Yep.
that one's
He's
interesting.
getting spanked.
Yeah, I think. I think we talked about him, and then all that stuff came out, and I was like, oh, that's tragic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Hmm.
fellas,
Yikes.
we survived our first episode back in like a month.
I
There's a
know.
lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's good to see you guys again.
Good to
Yeah.
see you too, man.
Well, I saw you the other day at Home Depot. So.
I know. That was awesome. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yep.
My kids are big fans, by the way.
Yep. Oh, we do have a big announcement, guys. We do have hats. I know we've been a little slow the last 3 weeks. We've all been busy. So
And
yes, t-shirts and hats. Hopefully, we can get that store up and running for you guys, and we'll get that posted on Twitter probably as soon as we can. Again, we're all kind of busy, and this election is just absolutely wild. You guys can always.
I'm wearing this hat because I am definitely trying to bring some awareness to Amendment 4 in
Yeah. Let's
Florida,
get that done.
Amendment 3 in Missouri, and Amendment
Yep.
G in North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, unborn lives matter.
All right.
Sure do.
Yep.
Sure
But
do.
I guess we will see you guys next weekend, guys, and we will talk about the new president.
Yeah. Hey,
All
everyone.
right.
Thanks for
Till next
watching and
time.
thanks for supporting us. It means a lot. This has been fun, and we're doing it with you guys, and that makes it so much more special. So, until next time.